Show.
Hey, welcome back. So this segment is not just about prepping, buying precious metal and purchasing a firearm or learning how to preserve, pemmican or something. This is about just common sense steps that you can take. And more importantly, it's about forming a community to help you survive. Even in good times, you need support sometimes. And so that's really, in a nutshell, what this segment is all about every Monday. The Survivalist, Stefan Verstappen, emergency preparedness expert, author of The Art of Urban Survival. Stefan, welcome back. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good, Richard. Thank you for asking. We had a little bit of bad news. One of the members in our community, his son died. A healthy 28-year-old boy, perfect health, died suddenly in his sleep for unknown reasons. Now, it must be said that this young man is the only one in the entire family and the only one in our entire community that took the experimental death injection.
Oh, dear.
And his father begged him not to take it, but he was forced to take it in order to keep his job. And now he's dead. So there you go, folks. I don't know what to say about this, but
one day, hopefully, this is going to be looked into, and we're getting reports. Lancet just published an article recently about how the vaccines are suppressing natural immunity, and all we can do is keep, getting the word out, and hopefully they'll investigate. Well, but we're going to have to hold their feet to the fire to be sure. That is horrible news. So,
anyways, but so today. We're always talking about survival. Now, this month we have devoted our time to talking about community, but community is an essential point of survival. Next week, we'll get back to some of the other things typically we talk about with survival, preserving food and storage and water and firearms. We can get back to those subjects. But even if you've got all the food and the firearms and you're all prepped, if you don't have a community, your chances of survival are still very narrow. That's why, and if you don't have anything, you don't have food and you don't have, your machine guns and grenade launchers.
Yeah.
If you don't have Apache attack helicopter parked in the garage, it doesn't matter because the community will allow you to survive. And that's why this month, we arranged it already a few weeks back that we're going to discuss communities this month. And that is because community, you got to be part of a group. You have to have people that will help you and you can help them, because that is the key to survival. More important than guns, more important than food, more important than, an escape plan is community. And so we need to form communities, and it can be any kind of community. That's what I'm trying to stress. Now, generally speaking, we think, survival situation, a community. We're going to talk about organizing militias or survival retreats and things like that. Well, yeah, that's okay too, but it's not necessary. And to be honest with you, it's beyond the scope of almost everybody listening to us today. There's just not that many people that are going to, get on an M16 and start becoming a part of militia. And to be honest with you, I don't think
that's just not our culture, quite honestly.
It's not our culture. And
we've got to take a time out, Stefan. When we come back, though, let's talk about building these support groups and the advantage of building support groups in terms of, providing mental and medical help.
Yes.
So communities as a method of survival. Stefan Verstappen, emergency preparedness expert, author of The Art of Urban Survival. Back with more in a moment. Stay with us.
Back to the conversation on The Richard Syrett Show. News Talk, Saga 960 AM.
And we are back with Stefan Verstappen, emergency preparedness expert, author of The Art of Urban Survival, formingcommunities.com, chinastrategies.com, talking about the importance of forming communities to help you survive. One of the easiest most effective ways to provide somebody with a wide range of mental and medical help. It's through the formation of support groups. So do you have some case studies, examples of what you mean, Stefan?
Are very easy to form. There's no legal contracts. There's no nothing you have to do formally. What it is a group of people that come together that have a common interest and a common experience in a certain area where they would like to have help, support, and advice. They tend to be fully organized and managed by its members. They're all volunteers who have personal experience in the subject of a group's focus. So, for example, I'm sure you've heard of these types of support groups. They have them for almost anything you can imagine. People that suffer from depression, or people that have an addiction problem, or people that are newly divorced, or people that are struggling to raise children alone. And they meet together and they provide each other with moral support and advice. And they also help to steer you in the right direction. And it's a huge benefit, and it's, again, almost nothing to organize this. It's very simple. You put a little ad in the paper or on Facebook or on your social media saying that, I'm suffering from depression. I live here. Can we meet? I'm going to form a group, and generally for a support group, you will get free space at the library or at the community center or at the local Legion. They'll provide you a room, and you meet once a week, and it's usually a small group, probably no more than 20 people, and everybody talks and shares their experience. So it's very easy to organize, but it does provide benefits. And I'll give you a case study, and this is from a fellow that booked an online consultation with me, and he had booked it and he had paid the money, and then I didn't hear from him. 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks went by, and he already paid the money, and I'm ready to do the consultation, but I don't know where he is. I emailed him. I phoned him every other day for almost a month to try and get a hold of him. Couldn't get a hold of him. When I finally did get a hold of him, I said, well, what happened? Well, he got bronchial pneumonia. And he lives in Chicago, and he lives in a small room, like a bed sitting room that is in a house that he shares with several other people. And he was so sick, he couldn't get out of his bed. And I asked him, well, why didn't you go to the hospital? Well, he's terrified to go to the hospital. Now, this was at the height of the big phony medical emergency that we all know about. And he was scared to go to the hospital. Well, you know what? He has every reason to be scared to go to the hospital. You know that doctors kill more people than guns.
That's true, actually. Misdiagnosis and so forth. So how did he end up surviving?
Well, so I spoke to him, and I'll be honest with you, 80% of the people that book an appointment with me are all in the same boat. Usually 50, mid-50s, no family, no friends, nobody to help. He's dying in his bedroom, and he asked one of the fellow people that live there, can you go to the store and get me a sandwich or some food? They couldn't even be bothered to do that. All right, so this is what happens when you're in a big city. And he lived in Chicago. He worked as a security guard. He couldn't go to work because he was sick, and so they laid him off. But even if he did go to work, he got mugged twice a week because he had to take public transportation. The crime in Chicago is through the roof. People have no idea how dangerous it is. The last time he was held up at gunpoint, 2:00 in the afternoon in the Central Station in Chicago. So I said to him, look, do you have this? Do you have nobody, no friends, no contacts, no family, nothing. I said, look, I hate to tell you this. And sometimes, my approach to survival is you're better off to shelter in place. A lot of people want to run away. They want to go to Costa Rica. They want to go to Mexico. They want to get, a cabin out in the woods. I said, well, okay, that's all fine and dandy. You can afford all that. But really, your best option for most situations is to stay where you are. Get your preps, get your food stockpiled, but stay where you are. But in this case, I said, look, you have to get out of Chicago. You're going to die. This winter was coming on again. He still wasn't fully recovered from pneumonia. He was still sick as a dog. I said, you're not going to survive another winter in Chicago. I said, so, I asked them, how much money do you have? I sometimes ask my clients how much money do they have, if it's important to the advice.
Yeah,
And they
buy
had
a
big
bus
money.
ticket. Buy a bus ticket. Find someone in, I don't know, Southern Illinois, a relative, a distant relative that you can stay with until you can figure stuff out.
That's what I suggested too. I said, rent a car and start driving. And just head south. Doesn't matter where you go. He said, where should I go? I said, it doesn't matter. Get out of Chicago. Go south. I recommended North Carolina, and I said, as you're driving, through New York State or through Vermont, I said, when you come across a small town and you have to stop for the night, check out the small town. Do they have jobs there? Do they have an apartment for rent there? Check it out, because you're better off. And to be honest with you, it's true. You're better off in a rural community than in a big built up urban environment. And next week we'll talk about why, if you're stuck in downtown Toronto, you're going to die. You can't survive in downtown Toronto with what's coming. So you have to get out. Then you have to escape. So anyways, he got in the car, and there was only one thing that I knew about him, and that was he was a member of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and he'd been clean and sober for 35 years. And I said, okay, go drive. Just get out of there. Doesn't matter where you go. Just go south, whatever the mood takes you. I said, but when you get to a small town, check if there's an AA chapter there, and then go visit them. Well, that's what happened. He ended up in North Carolina, near Wilmington. He found a small town there. He stopped. He found out that they had a local AA association, so he went to one of the local meetings. It turned out that the gentleman who had formed the AA association there in North Carolina was a, fairly well-to-do businessman who had built 4 modern, ultra-modern, clean cottages, 2-bedroom cottages, and he put them on some land just outside of town. And they heard his story, and they said, you're welcome to move into one of the cottages.
Okay, Stefan, I gotta jump in here because I'm approaching top of the hour.
Anyways, so he got a really good place to stay, dirt cheap, $800 a month, and they found him a job, and he's doing fine now. So
Wow.
it was something like, joining, hooking up with your AA group again.
That's a community. He's formed. Yeah, he's found his community. Listen, got to run. We'll pick this up next week. Stefan Verstappen, The Art of Urban Survival, ChinaStrategies.com, FormingCommunities.com. Stefan, thank you. You have a great rest of the week.
You too, Richard. Bye-bye.